a time to give special acknowledgement to the culture and contributions of our fellow citizens of American Indian descent. In North Carolina, approximately 21,000 Native American students are enrolled in our public schools. Additionally, our state recognizes 8 tribes, one of which holds a federal recognition. We particularly appreciate the State Advisory Council on Indian Education, or SACE, who works closely with this board and the Department of Public Instruction, advising on strategies to improve the whole child needs of our Native American students. The history and achievements of American Indians are among the many treasures of North Carolina. In its most recent report to the State Board, SACE provided a number of recommendations that are worthy of our consideration and implementation to improve educational opportunities for American Indian students. These recommendations are consistent with requirements secured by the Every Student Succeeds Act, including collaboration and consultation with districts, state and federal tribes, higher education, critical state organizations, and the Department of Public Instruction. During our planning and work session last month, we focused on how we can allocate resources entrusted to our stewardship in educating all North Carolina students. Resources that include our time, our talents, our funds, energy, and most importantly, our commitment. And this set of recommendations are an example of how we can prioritize resources to meet not only a federal requirement, but also the growing needs of our Native American students and of all of our students. So we look forward to working closely with our superintendent and DPI leadership to actualize these recommendations and others before the end of this academic year as we continue our pursuit of implementation of our state's public education strategic plan for the benefit of all of our students. I now welcome board members, advisors, staff, on-site visitors, online listeners, and Twitter followers to today's meeting. And for our visitors and those listening online, today's agenda involves our board committee sessions, with tomorrow's agenda being the official meeting date when the board will vote on its action items. Board members are reminded that it's our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of this board. Does any member of the board know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them for the record. If during the course of the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. Board members, you've seen the agenda for over a week and had the opportunity to review it. I ask if there are any requests for changes to the agenda. Hearing none, I request a motion for approval.
Move approval, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Ms. White. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Oxendine. Dr. Townsend Smith, please call the roll to capture the vote.
Yes, sir. Dr. Oxendine?
Yes.
Ms. Chemnitz?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Dr. Tipton Rogers?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Mr. Ford?
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan?
Yes.
Chair Davis?
Yes. Motion carries. We have an agenda. We'll now proceed to today's committee meetings, and I note to the committee chairs and audience that all voting on consent and any item requiring action will be completed tomorrow via roll call. We'll begin by recognizing Ms. Amy White, Chair of the Education, Innovation, and Charter Schools Committee. Ms. White.
Thank you, Chair Davis. I'm Amy White. I chair the Education, Innovation, and Charter School Committee, along with Ms. Jill Chemnitz. Mr. Chair, just a point of personal privilege. As a leader of a North Carolina nonprofit, yesterday, all across the nation, Giving Tuesday was a theme that was replicated, offering opportunities for those across our great state to give to nonprofits that they so choose. I want to bring this up because I'm incredibly thankful for the many corporate entities and individuals across our state that support North Carolina public schools in a non-traditional way. I think back to the hurricanes that our schools were devastated by in recent years, and how corporations came to the rescue to help make sure that students were supported. I think about NC EdCorps and the volunteerism that comes from the business community to make sure, again, that students and teachers are supported. So I just want to express my thanks to, while North Carolina Public Schools are a government entity, we could not make it without our corporate partners that come alongside and make good things happen in our classrooms each and every day. With that said, I will turn to an amazing presentation. We are so excited to have representatives from Sally B. Howard, an amazing charter school that has made significant gains and demonstrated academic progress and growth. Representing Sally B. Howard this morning are both its founder and one of our assistant directors, and I'm going to ask Dave Machado to come to the table and bring that team to show you the amazing work that they're doing.
Thank you, Ms. White. Sally B. Howard School of the Arts and Science was recently named a Blue Ribbon School for their ability to close the achievement gap. They are here today to be recognized for this great accomplishment. About 10 years ago, when I was a leader of a charter school, I attended a conference at Sally B. Howard, and I could tell at that time there was something special about this school. And over the last 5 years as the director of the Office of Charter School, it's been easy for me to see exactly what is so special about this school. It is their culture. It's the culture of inclusion, it's the culture of high expectations, and it's the culture of innovation. And I am so proud to welcome and introduce Dr. Joanne Woodard, the Executive Director of Sally B. Howard of the School of Arts and Science. Dr. Woodard.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Joanne Woodard. I am the founder and executive director of Sally B. Howard School of Arts and Science. And I first just want to thank you for the opportunity to come and share our story with you. I want to introduce to you the leadership team that is the bridge that brought us here, starting with Mr. Sandeep Agarwal. Please stand. He is the assistant director. He's also the director of technology, the business and finance director, the facilities director, the operations director, and I haven't named them all. He has been with us since 2004. Now I want to introduce Deanna Torres. She is the Dean of Arts and Humanities. She has been with us for 20 years. She started out as a kindergarten teacher and quickly moved up to leadership. Kimberly Hines, please stand. She is our Dean of Student Services. We have known her since she was a child. She attended UNC Chapel Hill, and when she finished there, she came and joined us. She has been with us for 20 years. I want to introduce Pratibha Rani. She is the principal of our elementary division, and she is the leader of curriculum and instruction. She is the reason that we are here, I would say. Thank you. We also have a new member, and wait, she's been here 15, 16 years too. That's the point I want to make about all the leaders. They've been here forever. We didn't just come here overnight. There is one person who decided to remain at school and have leadership on the campus while the rest of the leaders are here. His name is Glenn Reeves. He is a 30-year veteran in administration around the state of North Carolina, and he is our middle high school principal. Okay. We are among the first 32 nonprofits in North Carolina that was awarded the charter in 1997. So we've been in this room, we've been here a long time, and we're happy that you invited us to come today. We serve a diverse body of over 1,000 low-income K-11 students. The story of how Sally B. Howard earned this recognition is the story of a journey inspired by the lived experience of Sally Baldwin Howard. Mrs. Howard was always destined for greatness. Her life defied her humble beginnings. She is a daughter of a sharecropper in Wilson County, and she was born in 1916. She died recently at the age of 102. She joined the American Theater of Harlem. Do I have this in the right order? She joined the American Theater, no I didn't. Mrs. Howard graduated valedictorian of Charles H. Darden High School class of 1938. And I say that, thank you for showing that, because she came from illiterate, uneducated family. And this sharecropping experience handicapped her in terms of attending school. Back in those days, school started probably right after Labor Day. But she wasn't able to go because they had work to do on the farm, and she went 1 or 2 months later, yet she graduated the top of her class. She loved learning. All right, and because she was at the top of her class, she received a scholarship to attend Hunter College in New York. Boy, she came from little cotton picking Wilson County and went to New York to attend Hunter College, which at that time was a basically all-white girls' school, very elite school, and she had full scholarship to go there. We are so proud of her story, and we are so inspired by her story that we embraced her and her vision, and we made it ours. So she graduated from Hunter College with an undergraduate and a master's degree in history, and she taught in New York City public schools for 25 years until she retired in the Bronx, PS 50. We've even tracked down some kids that she taught back in those days, some grown men, some old men that she taught back in that day. So she began working as an elementary teacher in the Bronx, in New York thereafter. Some very important stuff about her life in New York, which was really a high life, I have to say. She joined the American Theater of Harlem while she was in New York, and mingled with the likes of Ossie Davis, Ruby Dee, Esther Roll, Harry Belafonte, and more. They were just kids. They were not celebrities and all of that, but they loved theater. She also traveled to over 40 countries in her summer experiences. She retired in the 70s and returned to Wilson and became head of the Christian Education Department at one of our churches, and that's where I met her in 1986. Mrs. Howard believed that children, all children, have greatness in them, and that the greatness can be cultivated through high standards, hard work, and most importantly, love. When we founded the Summer Youth Enrichment Program in 1989, we evolved later into the Sally B. Howard School in 1997. We wanted her beliefs infused in every aspect of our school operation, and that still exists today. I'm going to give you a battle if you want to change how we do things at Sally B. Howard, because her memory, her spirit, who she is, and who she developed, what she developed in us cannot be taken away, cannot be changed, and that is the reason we are here today. Our study abroad program, for example, and we're going to talk about that, some of our leaders will talk about that, was inscribed in our charter from the very beginning. Our fine arts focus that Deanna is going to talk about was a pillar of our core curriculum from the inception of Sally B. Howard. I want to pause and just say that it was a community effort to apply for the charter. We were not educators. I'm a doctorate in psychology. I'm not an educator. I don't have that training. But again, we were inspired to just, hey, we got to pull these kids in. We've got to serve these kids, and we've got to help them. That came from Mrs. Howard. However, we did study Howard Gardner's concept of multiple intelligences, and that allowed us to see that traditional education only values reading and math intelligence. And outside of that, everything else is extracurricular, after school. It's not core. And what Howard Gardner said is that for educational reform, we need to expand the core curriculum, because everybody doesn't come steeped in reading and math skills or intelligence or abilities. Some come with all the other intelligences: spatial intelligence, musical intelligence, charismatic intelligence, all of that. So we said, okay, we'll do that. We'll expand, and for our core curriculum, we'll include all those other intelligences. He said this: and when kids come to school and who they are and what they bring to school is valued, they're happy to be there. They don't mind going. And they'll cooperate with you in the areas that they're not great in. And we found that to be true. We never had a student in all these 24 years to come to Sally B. Howard and cry and carry on with their parents. I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to school. Because they're going to have time during the day that who they are and what they are great at is going to be celebrated, applauded, and the students are going to be feeling happy. That's what Gardner said. When you include them, when you value what they bring, however it might be, they are happy to be in that environment. They're not pushing away to leave. So let me stop because I can preach now. I can go on and on about what we do and why we do it. So, okay, both were used to cultivate in every child the evidence and the belief. You can't fool a kid. You can't say you're great and then have no evidence to persuade them that they are great. So expanding our curriculum gave us the opportunity to put them in places to discover and develop their intelligences and their talents. And it works beautifully. So both of these were used to cultivate in every child the evidence and the belief that you have gifts, talents and intelligences. You are somebody. You can become more than what your circumstances say to you that you can become. Take that note. That's the note of who we really are. So our ultimate goal is in establishing the Sally B. Howard School was to instill in every child, whether they were privileged or underprivileged, that you have greatness in you. You can be more than you ever thought or dreamed that you can be, regardless of your income, regardless of your race, and regardless of your circumstances. So receiving this honor for exemplary achievement in closing the achievement gap is the evidence and the encouragement that we have received, because now it affirms to us, we know that we are attaining our goals. I want to close my section by sharing with you a writing. Whoever is running this, if you can go to slide 4, I think it is, and it's called When I Lay Me Down to Die. I want to share this writing by Sally B. Howard, and it's entitled When I Lay Me Down to Die. Okay, and by the way, she wrote this in 1948. She was 41 years old. She lived another 61 years to live out this creed, and she calls it her creed. And by the way, though she lived to be 104 years old, you want to live like she did. She was not this creepy, old, fragile, on a cane, not at all. And cognitively, the day that she died, the early morning that she died, she was talking her head off about her life and what a life she did live. And then just 5 minutes later, she was gone. Okay, so it says, when I lay me down to die, have bade farewell this beauteous world, the valleys green and oceans swirl, of fragrant blossoms and birds that sing, of happy voices with childlike ring, of ecstasy from lover's kiss, though evermore I'm done with this, and my journey through eternity to the dawn of nothing be. I shall begin it cheerfully if little children let fall a tear to express the love they bear, and weep my passing from this earth, because till death, yea, from birth, for truth and goodness I have striven, because of kindness I have given. If they should weep to have me stay, because I've lighted up their way, then happy upon my couch I'll lie, when I lay me down to die. Thank you. And so I will ask Mr. Agarwal please to come and say a few words, and then in the order that you know to go.
Good morning. Truly very honored to be here. Thank you so much for inviting the Sally B. Howard team. It's very hard to follow Dr. Willard. It's my challenge sometimes. Her energy and inspiration from Miss Sally B. Howard is what drives us from the very beginning. When I joined Sally B. Howard School in the year 2004, coming from New Delhi, a city of 20 million people, to Wide Awake Wilson, a city of 50,000 people, it was something for me. But entering the hallways of Sally B. Howard School inspired me from day one. And what inspired me the most was the vision with which the school is created. I can only imagine in the year 1997, when people are struggling to put the building together, having staffing together, Ms. Sally B. Howard and Dr. Willard had the idea and the vision to create a study abroad program. It touched me deeply. And since that year, I've been leading that program, taking our students to different parts of the world every year, paid by the school budget. The kids have to compete for this. They have to write an essay. They have to go through many steps. And we take them to different countries like India and China and Australia and Cuba and South Africa and Mexico and Africa and many other places, giving them real-life experiences. This is our history. How did we get to be a B school? There's no magic bullet. We learned recently in our last 7 to 8 years, good instructional practices done consistently on the ground brings the result. We buy a program for our children, for our teachers. Every program is successful somewhere and not successful somewhere. It is not the program that helps a school, it is the implementation of the program for the most part. And we on our team decided to be consistent, stick around with something that we agree to do, and go on with that year after year after year. There are challenges, there were challenges, there are still challenges today. But we figured out that once you stick with something, be it our common formative assessment structure, be it an end of quarter exam structure, be it a program that we bought for our kids, we give it some time, it starts working. It's a lot of work on the ground, there are challenges, but we're getting there. One of the biggest strengths that our school has is our leadership team, and Dr. Willard introduced us to you. We are one committed team of people with a single mission to serve our children with the inspiration of Ms. Sally B. Howard's vision. That's what we do. We let the battle of ideas happen on the table, like you all do for the state. The battle of ideas happen. It's not a battle of personalities. It's not a battle of personal agendas and egos and all that. It's a battle of ideas. And we believe when the best idea wins, the whole team wins. And that is something truly that we embrace and live by at Sally B. Howard School. Very fortunate to have some great people who we love, and they love the mission and vision of Sally B. Howard School as well. Anybody who joins us, Dr. Willard gives them a tour, reads Ms. Sally B. Howard's creed, and they are inspired. When you care for people, they care for you. When you make them believe in the children, they believe in the children, and magic starts happening. That's the whole story of Sally B. Howard School in my words. I'll let my next colleague come. Thank you so much.
I gotta go a little down. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting us. So we're honored to be here. And you heard from our mighty Dr. Woodard. After that, I don't know who else can speak like that, bring that energy, and then Mr. Agarwal comes in. But I'm here to share a little bit about our instructional model over here. But before that, being part of Sally B. Howard School for 16 years is just family. The openness in our environment, in our culture over there, for the diverse culture that we have in our building. You can see I'm from India, and then we have people from Mexico, we have from Jamaica, Philippines, Italy, South Africa, Philippines, what else? Haiti. So it's Costa Rica, yes. I don't know who I missed, but plenty of openness. Now, you know, when these different people walk in from different cultures, they have different accents, as you might see that I have a different accent. Our students have no difficulty understanding. They are so enculturated now, if that's the right word. They are so enculturated that they can understand anybody. People from Jamaica, they have this strong accent, or people from Philippines, they have that, or I have. These little kindergartners, they can understand that. So that's just so beautiful. And the environment of love, acceptance, is that what fascinates people, as Mr. Machado just mentioned. When you come into our building, there's something special about us. Now, going back to how we got in here with this recognition about National Blue Ribbon, we owe it to our teachers. We owe it to our instructional model. Instructional model that is based on the science of learning, teaching, and art of learning and teaching. So both science and art are combined together to create our model. Now, I take the honor of designing the program for instruction. I go by looking at how the brain works. how students retain information, how they learn information, how they retain information, developmentally how they can or possibly retain that information. And based on that, we went into Teach Like a Champion, we went into Get Better Faster, and then created our own model where the foundational, the basic instructional practices that we lined up for Sally B. Howard, like alignment of instruction, objective instruction and assessment, which is very foundational. And we found out, like, it was not a common practice for teachers to really look at the alignment of objective with what you're teaching, how you're teaching, and how you're assessing. They have to be aligned, otherwise you are setting your students up for failure or you're creating frustration in your classroom. So alignment of these objective instruction and assessment, we embraced that. And then we went into, when we're instructing, we're going to go with chunking. This little practice of chunking. Okay, information will be given to the students in bite-sized pieces. Once I give those bite-sized pieces, I'm aggressively monitoring. I'm looking at every student's work. So that's another practice, aggressive monitoring, that we have in place where students' work is looked at through the lens of, rigor. And then you're looking at chunking, aggressive monitoring, and work habits. I'm not taking A, B, or C as an answer. You have to explain your answer, students. So that's another instructional practice we have in place is work habits. Now, when I'm talking about all this, it is not happening in one class. It is from kindergarten all the way to our high school. So that's the training which our students get from classroom to classroom for classroom management, the Teach Like a Champion strategies. There's a common language that throughout the building teachers speak. So there's a consistency of all the instructional practices that goes from kindergarten through 8th grade. So when the student goes from kindergarten to 2nd grade, they are not new to the vocabulary. They're not new to the terminology. So it's all getting deeper and deeper into them. So by the time they go to middle school, they already know that they can't get away without showing their evidence. They can't go without giving the right evidence or the reasoning behind what their answer choice is. So with that said, if I need to put in like what brought us over here is the consistency and the accountability that we have in place, and then the constant professional development for our teachers, that we do it. And the PLCs are not just come together, let's talk about it, let's talk about something, the standards, but we are digging into the standards. We are creating those sequences. We are creating the product. The teachers will walk out of the PLCs by having a tangible, rigorous lesson plan, which we call it exemplar, which is common across the grade levels. So the expectations, not only for the students, but the teachers, are very high. And it's the love that drives it. It's the love that drives it. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to put her up a little bit. My name is Diana Torres, and I am the Dean of Arts and Humanities. I've been working for Sally B. Howard for 21, this is my 21 year. So we have also seen the development of the program. I think Dr. Wood spoke beautifully about it, about the reason why we have it. This is a safe place where the students find that they have gifts and talents, and there's a unique way to express, a different way to express ideas and concepts, and they learn in a complete different way. But we also have, this is not arts classes, arts, humanities, and science classes. It's a unique program. We follow tracks. So it's not just to give the teachers a planning time. We have a structure. We have, and our vision now that we have the high school finally, is to encourage students, whoever really embraces these tracks or these art, science, or humanities forms, to go for either careers directly, if they have opportunities, or go to university. We're going to help them to prepare for auditions to universities, and that's our dream, and we are going to achieve it. This is our first time, or our physically our first time with our high schoolers, because last year we were in complete isolation. We actually created a movie called Isolation. We didn't stop, by the way. We created movies and dance festivals and everything, recording students one by one. So we did not stop. And our program is alive and is strong. We have a structure in the K-1 phase. We can call it an exploratory phase. So the students attend to all of the classes throughout those 2 years, once a week or twice a week, so they can learn what the classes are about, and they can discover where they are, where their passion is. And as they grow, when they start second grade, we take the task of auditioning students and place them in the choices they want to be placed. So we give them multiple choices, and they choose 3, the ones that they feel passionate about, and they have to earn their space in those classes. They have to audition. Auditions work in both ways. It's not only for us to see their talent, but it's also for them to actually feel what is that art form. So we're very open. If a student after a theater audition says like, oh no, I really didn't feel, it's okay. We say, that's fine, you discover that's not what you want, and then we offer them a next audition so they can actually be happy. They choose, but at the same time, they earn their spot in there. In our program, we do mid-year evaluations, and in that mid-year evaluation, we have conferences with the students, and we tell them, this is where you are, this is where you need to be, or you are excelling, or you need to work on this and that, and by the end of the year, we do evaluations again, which determine you show the growth that you need to continue working, you're welcome back in this. If you want to continue, more than likely they want to continue where they feel successful, right? Or we encourage them and help them to find other areas. If they are not happy there, if they're not showing progress, then we encourage them and help them to find something else. So pretty much our program puts in the hands of students some ownership of, I wanted to be here. I said, like, because we get every year like, oh, but dance hurts. And like, oh, yes, of course, it hurts. What did you expect? But you chose it, and that means you have something in you that you want to do this. So it's part of their ownership. Our program counts for AB honor roll. You cannot have a bad grade in your arts or humanities classes and qualify for your AB honor roll. If you don't have a good grade there, you do not qualify. And believe me, those students will fight to have good grades. So, and the parents too, by the way. So that's pretty much how our program works. These are the safe place where the students go with pride, and they're called the actors, the dancers, the singers, the scientists, and absolutely they come happy. They come happy. They have to work hard, but we also provide the space for them to be recognized by their peers, by their teachers. Very often teachers get surprised about what some of the students are, the class clowns, and then they go on stage and it's like, wow, I never saw that student through that lens. I never knew that he could do that. So it really works. It really works. And the Art and Humanities program is a perfect way to have a holistic education, a place where the students can build their inner wealth, to know that they are somebody, to know that they have more than just functions and reading. There's more. And then I can integrate my learning into my craft. What a beautiful thing. So I want to take the opportunity being here just to speak about another thing, being a Hispanic person, that our school does amazingly beautiful. We have a very high number of Hispanic students. And one of the things that we have done, even in the arts too, we always try to integrate some of their culture. And we have staff that is bilingual, and the parents are involved. They always get announcements and calls and the conferences with in their own language. And the students, when they come with fear, there's always someone that speaks their language. I think part of the success in all the areas, arts and academics, for our Hispanic students, they feel valued. Our Hispanic families feel valued, and they're important to us. So it's not, you're not aside just because you can't speak English. You are part of us. You're part of this beautiful family too. And that helps the students also. I have had students in theater class who improvise in Spanish, but another student provide interpretation, and they just feel so welcome. They feel so well, so happy, and the other students feel, challenged, and they get to understand the world they live every day. So that's another beautiful part of our school, that we see the need and we try to serve to that need. Thank you.
My name is Kimberly Hines. I'm the Dean of Student Services of Sally B. Howard School, and I feel I have one of the best jobs at the school because I get to work with the students and the parents first row. Everybody else gets to work with the teachers. I get to work with the students and the parents. And the partnership between the student, the home, and the community is what makes our school great. The parents come to our school, they feel listened to, they know that there's an open door policy, and as we stated at the beginning of this presentation, you can see that the leadership has remained the same for numerous years. So no matter where you're going, is Ms. Hines there? Where else is she going to be? Where's Dr. Woodard? She's in her office. Where's Mr. Ackwell? So there's consistency. Parents know that they have venues to come in and talk to someone and get their concerns addressed. And also, even if we don't agree or don't move on those issues, they at least know that they're heard. Because as Dr. Woodard stated before, I am a product of the Youth Enrichment Program itself. One of the best things that I like to tell people when I go to different aspects is the best award that a school can get is when a child that has attended there brings their child back, and in some cases, their child back. So I've seen about 2, sometimes 3 generations of students that I've seen come through there. So that's a hat off to us, because not only did you do a good job with me, I'm trusting you to do a good job with my child. So that's one of those things. Also, having the knowledge of the community that we serve and being very close to it, that has served us very, very well. A lot of our parents in the past, sometimes they feel disenfranchised from the school, be it from why they had an issue in the past with an older student or an issue with their education themselves. We make it comfortable. No matter what background, socioeconomic or education level, we have something that you can do for our school. Even if it's just, hey, greet the kids or open a door or, send a message. We make sure that our parents are involved. We have it all the way down to each of our bus drivers. We have a reminder. If your bus is 5 minutes late, tell the parents so that those kids are not standing out there. It's the communication that's important to us, because a lot of times parents are frustrated because they don't know. It is our job to keep them informed of what's going on. Hey, we have this workshop coming up. Come on out. Hey, we have this. Come on out. We're always inviting our parents, because what we found out and what Dr. Woodard has instilled in each one of us, we can't motivate the children. Only the parents can. If you can get a partnership with the parent and the school, then the child is hearing a consistent message from the school, the teacher, from home. Then they're going to start, hey, they did say I was intelligent, and each one of them gave us reasons why they're intelligent. So reaching out to those parents is absolutely essential. Having those students feel that there is a safe place to come and talk to or address their concerns, because they have voices too. Our students know and understand if they feel that there's an injustice by anything, they have an open door and a way to address those concerns and be walked through it. Like we said, it may not always happen where it moves in their favor, but at least you can come and say, hey, I have a concern about this, or why is my grade doing this? They at least have the vocabulary to know to say, hey, I do have the option and the authority and the obligation to question. I don't have to accept everything. I do have the obligation to question and say, okay, let me get an understanding, because the clarity that we need from our parents and our students is absolutely paramount, because with clarity becomes understanding, and understanding moves you forward.
I don't know about you, but I am speechless. This is how the magic happens. If we would just give them a round of applause. I know my colleagues have a few questions, but I just want to echo some of the things that I've heard. If you want to know how the magic happens, then you should have heard today that their core belief is that children can achieve greatness regardless of their circumstances. That's undergirded by the theory of multiple intelligences. Anybody can do anything, and any child is an expert in the thing that they have been gifted with. All students are experts at something. I heard consistency. I heard from multiple staff members that they had been there not 5 years, not 10 years, but I heard 16 and 17 years, and do you know what that tells me? It tells me that your leadership has chosen individuals to lead in that school who love children and who love learning. I heard that instructional leadership works together because they work like family, and that they take the gifts that have been given to those leaders and they work together to make a cohesive unit that's grounded in accountability, and that they expect those children to have accountability for themselves. And all of this works well because of a partnership between the home, the school, and the community. And without that, they would not have the success that they have. But most importantly, I heard love and kindness is the theme that runs through this school. You are to be congratulated. I can't not even, if I were in Raleigh and I had a child, I would drive from Raleigh to Wilson to have my child at your school. So surely my colleagues have a comment.
Well, I won't be shy. I've had the pleasure of visiting Sally B. Howard School, and it was a joy to behold, and I got to interact with your students and speak with them, and it was an incredibly impressive visit that I will certainly not forget. And to echo Ms. White's comments about what we heard today, I love the idea that you see your role as recognizing that there is greatness in all children and that you are there to bring out that greatness in them through your partnerships with parents and community and teachers. Thank you so much for coming here today in person to share your story with us.
Well, Ms. Humanities.
Like Superintendent Truitt, I also have had the pleasure of spending some time at Sally B. Howard, and you feel it, as Mr. Machado said, you feel it when you walk in the door immediately. I had an absolutely amazing visit. I came out just so inspired, and I got in my car and I thought, how did they do that? It was during the pandemic and the students weren't even there. But I still had this feeling of the love and the respect for students, and I remember saying to Dr. Woodard, I need to come back when the students are here, and I'm reminding myself. So I'm going to do that, and if anyone wants to join me, please do, because it is a real treat to go to this school.
Vice Chair Duncan.
While you were here and not when you leave and get praised, I want to thank you for the work that you do on behalf of our children. The caring and commitment comes through. Those are the mark of a true educator when you show that kind of caring and commitment, and boy, did we see that today. So thank you very much for the work you do on behalf of our children.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I sit and I listen, I've never been to your school, unfortunately. I look forward to the day that maybe I can visit your campus. But what I'm hearing, echoing what the chair lady was saying, each of your people see potential. You don't see a student. You see the potential that's there, and you build upon that. And with that love, with that community, with everyone, with the veteran staff, it just works out. And sometimes you can't put that in words. You can't put it in words. You can't put it in a jar and put it on the counter and sell it. I wish you could. But it's the love that a one human being has for another. That's what I see going on at your schools and with your staff and with your kids. It's the potential of every child who walks through that door. And I thank you for sharing with us this morning. And I wish you much, much success in the future. When we all can see the potential, we can make it a better day for each and every child. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Dr. Oxendine.
Thank you, Ms. White. I listened to your presentation and I just came away from it knowing fully
that you understand a lot about teaching and learning and children and adolescents. You're inspired by, you have an icon that drives you. I say this so often to my students at UNC Pembroke. Yes, the vision is very important, but what is so important is that you find a way to act upon and live and demonstrate that vision, and that's what you're doing. You have a vision. You're inspired by it. You have cultivated a culture where your faculty, your teachers don't want to leave. They come back, and the vision is real. My challenge, I would like to give you a little challenge. Please try and write it up. Please give us the recipe, because we have many schools and students and communities that need what you have. Thank you.
Well, gosh, okay, so from our advisors, Ms. Clemens, you can go first, and then Ms. Stover.
And I'll make it quick. And so I wrote down so many things, and one was wealth of knowledge and need to visit. But so much of what you said spoke to me and mirrors a lot of what I believe, and things that are happening in our school as well. I'm also a former middle school band director, and so I would love for you to speak about the connection of the arts and the impact on social emotional learning. We talk a lot about that, and my guess I could probably anticipate what you're going to share, but can you speak to just the power of that and the impact that it's had on your students?
It just goes back to the original, the original concept of everybody has talents and gifts. God gave it to everybody. I don't care who they are. And it's the lens through which we see our children that allows us to see their greatness. They don't even see their greatness until we share it with them. They don't have that metacognitive and that internal knowledge that says, I am great. No, I'm not a 5-year-old or 10-year-old. So we do use an approach that helps our teachers. And I don't know that I'm answering your question directly, but this was what boiled up in me when you were talking, that I've got to tell them about that, about the fact that on purpose and intentionally, we train our teachers to see the children in their roles, see them. Children can be, I think I'm going somewhere. Children, I think I need to try to make it quick. Children don't know that you see them unless you interact with them in a positive way and see who they are. And you know that 95% of every child in your classroom is doing exactly what you expect them to do. They're not turning over the trash can. They're not running around the room. They have their heads down. They're working on their papers, and they're just quiet and not giving them a problem. How much energy do we give that 95% in a day's time? How often do we say to that child, hey, I see you working hard. You are really steadfast and persistent on your work. That's going to take you to the top, honey. Keep on doing it. The people we give the energy to are the ones who are turning over the trash cans, who are throwing paper, who are sending notes, who are walking around the classroom, and we go 110 with them. What are you doing? I mean, you know that if you're educators and teachers, and we do it at home. We do it as parents. The children come home every day, do their homework, don't even come, they may get on their phones or whatever, but they do what you want them to do. And sometimes parents and teachers say, well, why should I praise them? They're doing what you expect them to do. They're doing what they're supposed to do. Why do I need to give them extra attention and extra energy when they're doing what you expect them to do? Well, you need to, because what they see is when my brother is going around the house like a maniac, he gets all the attention and all the energy, and I get none, that kind of thing. So I've already forgotten what your question was. I was sitting there for the longest time saying, I got to talk about that we intentionally and on purpose train our teachers. It's really called the Nurture Heart approach to discipline.
Yes, thank you.
And we're about to have another one January 5th because we need to come back to that and get a refresher. That is so powerful because you've got to let them know, that you see them and you recognize what's great about them. And, you know, you gotta let them know so that they, oh, okay. And when they know you see them, boy, they will turn cartwheels to make sure that they cooperate with you. They make you happy. That relationship building thing. So I didn't answer your question, but you gave me the opportunity to speak about that. Go ahead,
Yes, I'm going to answer your question.
Most fun board meeting in weeks.
Well, we know the arts are a perfect venue of expression, right? So we allow the students to say through the art what they want to say. We allow them to explore their feelings through the art. I think the pandemic was a perfect time to do that. I can speak for when I say theater, for example, our high schoolers. I was their first year. Was kind of depressing, right? This is my first year in high school, Sally Howard, and I'm at home. But we just turned the lens. So instead of, well, we don't have shows on the theater, but you can learn how to act for the camera. We have cameras every day. You can learn the communication of film. So, and then it's a lot of work because we could say, this is too difficult, we're not going to do it. But we went to the school and put a green screen, and then we had one student coming from the side door, long distance, recording that student left from the front door, and then the next student will record, and then we put them together in a video. You know, it's a lot of work, but we gave them a voice in the case of isolation. Our students, actually, we went to competition, to North Carolina theater competition, and they wanted to express how they felt throughout this time, and they created a movie. In middle schoolers created a comedy show, so they wanted to laugh about all the crazy things that they could see through the pandemic. So that was another way to bring out whatever they were feeling. Students in visual arts created their pieces about the things that were very unique and crazy. I remember one of the pieces was like, what is with this toilet paper thing, right? Remember that craziness? So they created all of these art because it didn't make sense to them that people were going crazy for toilet paper, which is the way you absorb and then you can deal with your emotions in a positive way. And not just you, but connect with other human beings that feel the same way you feel.
Thank you. Okay, my timekeeper is letting me know that I have time for 2 short comments. Otherwise, they're going to kick me out and never let me chair this committee again. So, Ms. Stover, please keep me in my seat.
I promise I will. I'll be very quick. I just wanted to say thank you so much for your passion and dedication to children. It's clearly evident in everyone who spoke how much you care and love about the kids in your school and how your entire community is dedicated to them and how you are truly seeing each one of the children and finding the way that truly makes them their best self so that when they leave your classrooms, they are empowered to be who they were meant to be. So thank you so much for that. I also want to say a huge thanks for embedding arts into the curriculum. As a science and math teacher, I try to include those in my curriculum because it is so important to our students in truly developing them in the multiple intelligences, but also in helping them understand our world. And so thank you so much for your commitment to find creative and unique ways to embed arts into the curriculum.
And then our last comment is from one of our student advisors, Marcella. It would be great for you to just share with us the student perspective and your question.
I don't really have a question, just a comment. One thing that really spoke to me was about how you guys try to keep every student included. For example, like students that are like Hispanic and stuff, because my parents immigrated here from the U.S. a couple years ago I was born. And so growing up, I didn't have those like bilingual administrators at school to help me translate important documents or translate during conferences with my parents. And sometimes I just felt left out
quickly say this. Or somebody else to make a comment?
Nope, you're the last one. Close us
Okay,
out.
yes. So thank you so much once again. I want to just say it's difficult to write this story sometimes. And as you said, words are not enough. We would like to invite the board and Superintendent Truitt once again to come to our school and see for yourself what's happening. Encourage us, encourage the teachers, and honor us with your presence over there. So thank you so much once again for having us.
Thank you to all of you. Thank you. Safe travels back to the school. We have thoroughly enjoyed your presentation. Colleagues, if I could beg your indulgence, we have another set of visitors that are going to talk to us about the report from the JELOC through the Innovative School District, and they also will need time to travel. So I would like to move EICS 5 up in the agenda and go ahead and do that. So today we have our presentation for the report that we must make to the JELOC, and we have some amazing visitors. Some of them you will recognize. Dr. Jordan, would you like to come and tell us who's here to share with us about this report?
Absolutely. Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Davis, Superintendent Truitt, board members and advisors, and thank you, Ms. White, for this opportunity to summarize the Innovative School District's annual report to the Joint Legislative Education Oversight Committee. The ISD team is here this morning, and each person will provide highlights from the report. We are also happy that we will have the opportunity to hear from Dr. Freddie Williamson, who is the superintendent of the public schools of Robeson County. I'll begin the presentation by providing some historical context, and if we could go to slide 3, I believe. Okay. The Innovative School District was created in 2016 by act of the North Carolina General Assembly. An annual report of operations, school selection, and progress is due by January 15th. Southside Ashpole Elementary School was selected for placement in the ISD beginning with the 2017-2018 academic year. No additional schools have been selected since. Next slide, please. Transportation, child nutrition services, technology, and maintenance support continue to be provided by the public schools of Robeson County. For the past several months, the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction has been operating as the temporary innovative school operator. And pursuant to Senate Bill 105, work is already underway to develop a plan for transitioning Southside Ashpole back under the direction of the public schools of Robeson County no later than the end of the 2022-2023 term. There is absolutely still work to be done, but there is an unwavering commitment to improving outcomes for the students at Southside Ashpole, and I want to publicly thank Dr. Freddie Williamson and his team for their willingness to partner. I arrived in January and saw very quickly that Dr. Williamson and his team see Southside Ashpole as a part of their family. And so I appreciate so much their willingness to come alongside of us, provide additional support, serve as a part of the principal search committee, make building improvements, sharing resources and personnel. It's that type of teamwork that will be necessary to ensure not just a smooth transition, but ultimately increased outcomes for the students served at Southside Ashpole. Last but not least, I want to absolutely offer kudos to Principal Isabel Jones, who came on board July 26th. She has hit the ground running and has done phenomenal work, and I'll be very honest and transparent. When she came on board, she probably did not know what she was in store for. But she has absolutely rolled up her sleeves and continued pushing us in a forward direction. And I am so appreciative of her commitment. Now I'd like to introduce Dr. Deshauna Gooch.
Thank you, Dr. Jordan. Next slide, please. It didn't get its coffee. As with many schools and districts across the state and the nation, Southside has experienced tremendous turnover and the resulting vacancies from that this school year. Therefore, hiring has been a priority, and as Dr. Jordan mentioned, Ms. Jones came on board this summer and she literally hit the ground running and has been working non-stop to make sure that staff are in place. We've also ensured that we contracted with veteran HR and finance folks who have been on board to ensure that we have proper protocols and we are in compliance with hiring. All of our staff this year were very, very happy and pleased to share that everyone on board has received or will be receiving a recruitment or retention bonus so that we can ensure that staff stay on board with us for this year and at least next year. And as of October 2021, all teaching and teacher assistant positions have been filled. I'd like to turn it over to our new and fantastic new superintendent, Dr. Ron Hargrave. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm probably going to sound like a broken record because twice already we've talked about Ms. Jones, and I'm going to continue that effort. But I am excited to have the opportunity to serve as the superintendent for the ISD, and particularly excited to have the opportunity to work with the staff and students from Southside. My first day in the building, I'm walking in and I'm wondering, okay, how's this going to go? And I'm talking, I'm in the classroom, so I'm going in and out of classrooms. I go into a first grade classroom, and this young student gets up from her desk, comes over after I've introduced myself, and gives me a hug and says, "Thank you for being our superintendent." And so, I say that to say this. I just came in on the presentation before us and came in on the word love being used and hearing about potential. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to visit Southside Ashpole, but I tell you, it is a school full of potential. It is a school full of children that desires to be loved and desires to be taught, and they have a hunger for learning. And so I'm very proud to just kind of review some of the things that Ms. Jones has already put in place. I came on in September, and Ms. Jones was, as was said, she's already hit the ground running and had a lot of things in place. Now, the students returned to in-person learning in March, and the one thing that this pandemic has shown us is how important it is for students to be able to interact face-to-face, especially struggling students. Some students have the innate ability to work from home via devices and through the internet, but students that struggle don't always have, they need that face-to-face interaction. They need that interaction with the teachers. And so those students haven't been out for that prolonged period of time. You can imagine how tough that was for many of those. And during the 1920 and 2021 school year, no end of grade data was collected or printed about the school. So I found that to be very tough for Ms. Jones coming in, because as a principal, you always want that data to be able to kind of give you a beginning of the story. And without that, the things that we've talked about is you have to be in those classrooms every day, and you got to be able to see what's going on and understand the needs of the students. The staff is, it's a very young staff. I think 8 of the 12 teachers in the building are beginning teachers. And so you take beginning teachers in a school, and nothing against beginning teachers, but you put them in that setting where they're really trying to learn how to become teachers, but yet they're working with some of the most vulnerable students in this case in our state, is very challenging. But I've not one time heard Ms. Jones or any of the staff complain. They're all in, and they are raring to go in terms of learning themselves so that they can put forth their best effort to help our children. Ms. Jones has done a great job of designing a master schedule so that the overwhelming majority of the time is focused on teaching and learning. And you know, she's taken out some of those things that get in the way of teaching and learning, and has put a schedule in place that allows a lot of targeted instructional time for the students. She's also made sure that the curriculum was aligned. In the previous conversation, I heard, you know, teaching and learning, the curriculum and assessments all have to be aligned. Well, and I'm sitting back there saying, yay, because she's got all that in place. And so as we go throughout the course of this year, we're already seeing improvement, and I know we'll continue to see improvement. The coaching and professional development is in place. She has her teams, her core teaching teams together, and they're doing a great job of working together and not in isolation, because again, it's an overwhelmingly young staff. I'm particularly proud of the partnership that we have with the ISG and Ed Direction. They've been very helpful in this transition, and also we continue from day one, have had dialogue with Dr. Freddie Williamson and the public schools of Robertson County to make sure that everything that we're doing in the school is preparing the school to be transitioned back to the district. And so the support that his staff, his leadership team, he himself has given has been very appreciative. The teachers are getting additional support from the new teacher support program from UNCP. And, you know, again, with 8 of your 12 teachers being new, that support is very well needed. Also, we have mentors from the public schools of Robertson County who are mentoring teachers in the building. And just, you can see the list without me continuing to read that. But it's just, again, it's a school that is primed to show improvement. And the one thing that has stuck with me was I went into a kindergarten class also on that first day. And as I said, I was making introductions, and the kindergarten teacher said, well, you'll be number 4. And she was talking about the number of superintendents who had come through there. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, I said, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure you don't need a number 5, because I'm here to stay. So we are just very happy to have the opportunity to support Southside and to work with the ISD. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Jones, and she'll come and give some additional highlights.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome.
So I will just talk a little bit about Southside Ashpole and our vision for Southside Ashpole. So we want our children and our staff to grow and achieve together. We want to see that Southside Ashpole would be a model school, that when someone comes to our campus, they will recognize Southside Ashpole for being that model school. As he said, we are predominantly new staff. 8 of our teachers are brand new. And if you've taught, we all understand that first-year teaching and the challenges you face as a first-year teacher. But we have worked hard, and we're continuing to work hard at Southside Ashpole. We want to make sure our students and all the staff have a family connection. And I always tell people, you can't give people soft skills. We can teach, we can educate a curriculum, but I'm excited about the staff that I was able to hire on the campus, because they do have the skills that are necessary, that I feel that are valuable in building and students' achievement. They have skills of being passionate about students, being passionate about family, being passionate about the community that we serve. And all of those things in place, students will feel connected to the school. And so we make an effort because we know we have to push academics. We know our students need to achieve. We want our students to achieve, and they will achieve. But being able to feel the connection and the love from the teachers on the campus, as an administrator, I will tell anyone that is a major component. So that's not a battle that I have to deal with in reference to making sure teachers are treating all the students as individuals. The students feel connected, the families feel connected to our school, and that is a plus. So we have been working hard to make sure that our students, our teachers, our children, our families, they feel wanted, they feel the connection of being on our campus. And I thank for the connections that we'll continue to make with the public schools of Robeson County and professional development. It is critical as a new staff and even the teachers who are there to make sure that they are growing professionally, because ultimately they are the ones that are going to make a difference in the children's lives. So we have been working hard with effective teachers, making sure our teachers understand how to teach, the graduate release model, making sure that our teachers understand exactly how to teach, making sure our kids feel connected to the school. And with all of that, we want our children to enjoy coming to school. We can push education, we can tell them all the things they need, but at their age, they need to be able to see it. So if they enjoy coming to school, then they're going to want to learn and do more. So we have worked hard in building partnerships and connections with our community. Our mayor have worked hard with us. Our my sorority, Delta Sigma Theta, have adopted our school, the Lumberton Alumni Chapter, and we have, they will come out and meet with our children. We have spotlight children, and we also provide treats to the students during different months, and then they're recognized, and then we contact the parents and let the parents know that they are being recognized, which have made a major difference with our parents and our community. We recognize our students monthly for their achievement and character, and we talk with our students constantly about character and building character amongst themselves. We do have our, we give out treats to our students so they'll know that they are great. And so when they read and we tell them over and over, they'll know that they are great. And we want our kids to understand that, you know, there's greatness in all of them. And they believe that. We have an awesome group of students. They work hard. And I've been at several schools, but the group of kids we have at Southside Ashpole, they love learning. They want to learn. And it's rare that you find a student and they ask you, who's going to be my teacher? I want to learn. So that, to me as a principal, tells me that I would do everything I have to make sure that our kids are learning and that they have the same opportunities as any other child in any other part of the state, that they are able to learn. And so we'll pass our little trinkets to them to let them know that you are great, or just the same to tell them that you can achieve. And we recognize them and showcase them as far as students of the month. We do have an outside teacher learning lab in our community. Our mayor have worked with us and has continued to say she will continue to provide resources for our outside teacher learning lab. And it mainly give our students another opportunity to learn outside of the four walls of their classroom, because learning can take place many different places. And so with the community help, with the learning lab, students have an opportunity to learn and make learning relevant in science that they can actually see. Instead of we always telling them something, they're able to see how is learning taking place, what can I do with all the resources that we have outside. So we are thankful for our outside teacher learning lab, where our students we can continue to make learning relevant to all of our students. And it's all about teamwork. I'm thankful for the public schools of Robeson County, Dr. Hargrave, Dr. Gooch, and everyone that have worked so hard to make sure that Southside Ashpole will become that model school. So I'm thankful for all of the teamwork, and we will continue to work hard to improve Southside Ashpole Elementary School. And at this time, I will turn it over to Dr. Freddie Williamson, Superintendent of the Public Schools of Robeson County. Thank you.
Good morning. I trust everybody's doing well. Chairman Davis, board members, Superintendent Pruitt, it's just an honor to be standing in front of you to have this conversation about returning Southside Ashpole to the public schools of Robeson County family. I would not try to add to what's been said. All of it's true, and even beyond all of that. It is and will continue to be a powerful partnership One of our themes now in the public schools of Robertson County is one team, one goal. That certainly applies to this work that Southside has always been and will continue to be part of the family. So I'll get to the point. It is the desire of the Board of Education in the public school of Robertson County that we do return Southside to the system as soon as possible. We started the transition process, been involved in PD. We will go through this district-wide accreditation process spring of 2023. We've already capped in the Southside, so expectation is that we can have the transition in place. We want it to be a smooth, seamless transition, and it will be. And so again, we hope that it would happen sooner than later, and we'll provide any information from our board with that request, and we'll wait for the pleasure of the State Board, the General Assembly, and Superintendent Truitt. I do want to recognize, though, Ms. Isabel Jones, who is a powerful principal. She understated the relationships that she's built in the community with the students. I'll be honest, when we started the conversation, that possibility of going to Southside, and I had only been in Robertson for a short period of time, I said, oh no, I'm not going to lose a principal. Then it dawned on me. No, we needed her experience in that building to build relationships, to have that common language, to understand multiple intelligence and how all students are gifted, and can we provide instruction around that giftedness so that they can find some success. She has been extremely powerful in that. And then Dr. Hargrave and I being good friends, we've had a lot of conversation, and we have that vision and a clear understanding. Again, we wait for the pleasure of the State Board and General Assembly to return Southside Export to the public schools of Robertson County family.
Dr. Williamson, to you and your entire team for taking the time to 2 hours to travel, to share with us the good work that's going on in the school. We thank you. I heard similar elements in this presentation as I did with the previous one. My challenge will be not only for all of your teachers in Robertson County, but specifically for those new teachers at Southside Ashpole, that they too are students and learning, and that they need to know that they too can be great regardless of whether they're in their first year or whether they're in their 15th year, that greatness will be transferred onto those students in those classrooms. So we're excited about their new leadership at that school. Does anyone have a question for any of the things that you've heard today about the ISD at Southside Ashpole and the potential partnership, potential transition, ongoing transition back to Robertson County? Yes, sir.
I would just like to thank Dr. Williamson and Ms. Jones and the team from the public schools of Robertson County, the ISD team that we heard from, Dr. Hargrave, Dr. Gooch. This is some great work, some deep and wide and much needed work, and we celebrate you for that. We heard a clear commitment, passion, and dedication for moving forward toward continuous improvement, and we heard about evidence of a solid plan in place. So like the chair, we're excited. I'm excited. I think we all are about this process and about this work that you're joining together to put your hands to. So we celebrate you and we thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Ross-Knight and then Vice Chair Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. White, and I want to thank the Robertson County team for coming to Raleigh to the State Board of Education meeting today and laying out the plans for the future for the school. I just have to say this. It is a rare opportunity and a special opportunity to be sitting in this seat, a member of the State Board of Education, and to see one of your former students in glory, Isabel Jones. She was one of my students many years ago, 2008, maybe 2009, I'm not sure. Isabel's back there nodding, so I'm close. But honestly, there's no better joy for a teacher to see what happened the last 30 minutes. Now, with that said, let's not lose the spirit of innovation. This was called an innovative school district. It came about several years ago.
Innovation takes a long time for innovation to be realized, right? Doesn't happen in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, sometimes it's 10 years. Sometimes it's 20 years, like Sally B. Howard. It takes time. So I guess what I'm trying to say, to express, is and I know this is gonna happen, when the school is transferred back to the public schools of Robeson County, whatever is happening in that school, caused by new teachers, caused by ISD here in the department, caused by Isabel Jones, caused by that small, tiny community in Roland, whatever is beginning to happen called innovation, that it carries forward. That we do not lose that spirit, that magic that we heard about this morning. Thank you.
And Dr. Oxendine, if I may just say that I am so appreciative again of PSRC's willingness to open the door, and I believe it to be the expectation of this board and of our superintendent to not cut the strings. And I don't mean that at all in a negative way. I mean, it is going to be absolutely necessary that we as a department, as an agency, partner with Southside Ashpole and PSRC to ensure that the transition is not only smooth but fruitful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Vice Chair Duncan, last comment.
Quick question, actually, not a comment at all. I appreciate all the work that's being done for this report, but is there a clear timeline now in terms of the transition process, just so we have it with some sense of clarity of what the proposal would be for this?
Very excellent question, Vice Chair Duncan, and the answer to that is not just yet. The goal is to identify a number of critical questions that have to be answered and get answers to those questions, and then be back before the committee and ultimately the state board with a proposed timeline. But we've heard Superintendent Williamson, and we certainly share the commitment to transitioning at a reasonable pace. We want to make sure that we do it, obviously without any adverse impact to stakeholders. And so that's going to absolutely require some answers to some key questions.
And I would be remiss if I didn't thank Dr. Williamson for the excellent work he's done in collaboration with the board and the community in Robeson County. I think that's something that's been very, very fulfilling for the board to observe the good work that's going on. We're thankful for it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We are going to move on to the remaining items in our agenda. Thanks to those who traveled today to prepare us and prepare for us those two excellent presentations. Let's jump back up to our requested update on the charter school renewal process as a means of introduction for this item. Last spring, every year the Charter School Advisory Board and the Office of Charter Schools brings forward the list of schools for us to decide upon the years of renewal that they qualify for. We had lots of questions last spring, and we asked the Office of Charter School to review this process and bring forward an update. They are here before us today to walk us through the charter school renewal process. At the podium is Mr. Dave Machado and a whole team of folks that are going to explain to us the amazing report at your desk. You can find that the North Carolina Charter School renewal process from start to finish. Thank you for that good work, Mr. Machado.
Thank you, Ms. White. As Ms. White said, we were tasked to make a presentation on our renewal process, and Dr. Shonda Cooper, who heads up the renewal process for our office, will walk us through and be able to answer any questions. And at this time, I'd also like to introduce Ms. Cheryl Turner, who is the Charter School Advisory Board Chair and also the director of a fantastic school, Sugar Creek Charter in Charlotte. So she'll be here to help answer any questions also. So Dr. Cooper.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for time on your agenda today. My purpose in being here is to make sure that you fully understand the renewal process and that you have an opportunity to ask me any questions that you may have. If you see before you, as Ms. White referred to, I've put together a booklet of resources for you. The presentation is at the top, but the other documents that are within this booklet are public documents that we provide to our schools as they go through the renewal process. All right, so the renewal process from start to finish. Guess we're ready for this. I have to say, Sally B. Howard, so proud of them, and they are a product of a 10-year renewal school. And so that just gives you an example of what we look for in schools that are 10-year renewal schools. High quality, high output, and high performance. So very, very proud of them. Can't follow up behind Dr. Woodard, but I'll do my best. So what is the purpose of the renewal process? The purpose of the renewal process is to ensure that any operating charter school has the opportunity to renew their expiring charter if they qualify. And on the next slide, you'll see that there are key terms. Within the charter world, we use some acronyms, but just some terms here for you to think about as we move through the presentation. When we talk about legislation, the charter renewal process is governed by state board policy, statute, and administrative code. And so the State Board of Education may renew a charter school up to 10 years if the following three factors are not a part of that school's position. If the school has not provided financially sound audits, that can be an issue. If a charter school does not have academic outcomes that are comparable to the LEA in which the physical building resides, that can also be an issue. And if a charter school at the time of their request to renew, and that's very important to remember, when they submit the request to renew is when we evaluate their position for the process. If for some reason they are out of compliance substantially, this may be another reason that the State Board of Education may decide that they're not going to renew them for a 10-year, but maybe for a lesser term. So how does the school enter the renewal process? They must submit a signed letter that also has to be notarized by the board chair, has to be notarized and signed by the board chair. That request is sent to our office. We do provide a courtesy of reminding schools when their renewal is coming to be because it is a 2-year process. However, statutorily, those schools are responsible for making sure they know when they need to renew and that they put in a request for that. Another important thing to remember is that there are 2 cycles of schools running at all times, okay? So, for example, you will receive a group of schools before you in February. Typically it's earlier, but because we're doing this, we push the months back. But there will be 27 schools that come before you. They're in cycle 2. Cycle 1, there are 41 schools who have just entered the process. So it's an ongoing cycle with 2 groups of schools that which we call cohorts. So it would be cohort 2022 because their expiration date is 2022, and cohort 2023 because their expiration date is 2023, okay? So at this present day, we have 68 charter schools that are currently in the renewal process. And for our communication, we communicate with the principal and the board chair at all times during this process. So that kind of gives you an insight on how much communication is going on, how many emails, all of that. But as we move forward, that will make a lot more sense to you. So what happens in year 1? In year 1, a charter school will submit their request to renew. They will also pay their $500 renewal fee. But along with that, they have to complete what's called a renewal self-study. That document is in the book if you would like to review it. It's on the back side. But they have to complete that. It is reviewed by members of the renewal team, the head renewing consultant, because that drives the conversation with the school about what status they're in, what processes they've gone through, and if they're actually doing what they told you they would do, which was to uphold the mission in which they submitted. Because that's the goal. We want to look to see, okay, this is what you promised that you would do. What are you doing operationally that's going to get you there? And during that time, we'll get to another slide with what consultants and our office has to do to prepare, but that's a huge piece. To ensure that they are staying true to that. Along with the other activities within the first year, we decide on site visit dates. That's communicated to schools, and everyone just gets prepared. The school does their part, we do our part. In year 2, it's kind of a waiting game. Usually, the site visits are completed, but it's not a lot of activity as far as what's going to happen. So in year 2, schools play the waiting game between May and October of when we typically give the report. We do stop site visits at the top of May because we want to make sure that we respect the testing window. We don't want to interfere with any EOG activities that may be going on. So typically, our site visits are from January to the last day in April. If we have a large group, like the cohort that's coming up before you in 2023, it may go over into the fall, but we always ensure that we complete those site visits prior to giving a report to the Charter School Advisory Board. So that's year 2. In between these times, we have what's called quarterly compliance reports. And my colleague, Ashley Beccaro, heads that unit up. But when we present a decision to the State Board of Ed, or even before we go before the Charter School Advisory Board, it has been a large collective effort across the agency. Any agency that plays into the role of a charter school has sat around the table and discussed that school. Are you compliant or are you non-compliant? We also utilize the framework in which we collect all of the compliance reports for schools. And when we come to you with a decision at the end of year 2, it is a very well thought out position. It's a very well thought out decision. So as you know, we have asked our school leaders to pivot on a dime over and over during the pandemic, and we are so proud. I just want to take a moment to say on record how proud we are of our school leaders that have had to change routes. We usually go in person, they give us a school tour, we get to walk around the building and see the kids. However, we had to switch to a virtual model. And I think our leaders took this on as a personal challenge because the videos are really, really great. And there is an example video in the presentation for you. Because of time's sake, I guess you can watch that at your leisure. But they've really done a good job of making this virtual experience come to life. And so we're very proud of that. We did have to switch from physically going in person to doing virtual visits. The Brady Bunch boxes were all exciting and everything, but they did a great job. And just the flexibility is applauded. So we did not miss a beat, we did not miss a school or a renewal, and that's something to be happy about. Again, the video tour is there for you at your leisure. So we're going to start to get into the renewal recommendations and how we get there. And please feel free, write down any questions that you may have so that at the end I can try to answer those for you. So let's take a look at what contributory information informs the renewal recommendation that comes to you from the Charter School Advisory Board. What you have before you are the general renewal guidelines. And, we discuss these guidelines as we move through the presentation. It is important to know that these guidelines have been accepted as part of rules. And so any recommendation that we send to you, it's based on what is here. And as the Office of Charter Schools, we don't veer to the left or to the right. We stick directly with the guidelines that have been accepted. So there are 3 major components that go into the renewal process and recommendations. Academic data, which is always a very hot topic, financial compliance, and governance compliance. And as you'll see here, this is just kind of a picture for you to see who sits around the table as we discuss all the compliance issues and what department plays into this. You have federal programs, financial business services, you have the exceptional children's department, behavior teacher support, school nutrition, accountability. There are a host of departments that truly support our schools and offer a great deal of support throughout the year for them. What you're going to see next is only a sample of the 2020 group, but I wanted you to be able to see how we cover the state physically in this process. And as you see, there are quite a bit of schools here, not 41, but we go to multiple places to make sure that we see our schools and we do a very thorough job for you in reporting. So as we look through the next few slides, remember, again, these are the general guidelines that have been accepted as part of this policy and process. We're first going to look at a 10-year school. If you notice, this school has exceeded growth. It's a B school, and I want you to pay close attention to where the arrow is pointing. That's the comparability column. And for those who do not know, comparability is 5 points within the LEA in which the physical building is where the school's located. So if there's a charter school that's in Durham County, if their building is in Durham County, then they are compared to the comps of Durham County, okay? That's always a question that comes up, so I want to make sure I brought that out. But these schools are compared within the county in which they physically reside, no matter what county their students come from. So they may have students that come from 7 or 8 different counties, but if the physical building is in a county, that's what the comps are. All right? So if you look, this school's been very successful. They've exceeded growth. They would obviously be a 10-year renewal. As we look at a 7-year renewal, one of the major differences here would be that the school did not meet growth one of those 3 years, and they may have not met comps one of those 3 years, okay? If we look at a 5-year school, and I will tell you after doing this for almost 6 years, typically there are other issues that may also come into play once you get into the 5-year category. There may be compliance issues of some sort or financial issues of some sort, because that does weigh heavily into the decision. So again, this school did meet growth, but their comparability was off for a year. And again, the examples that are up here are examples that were confirmed by State Board in 2020. We just removed all the identifying information from the slide. If you look at the 3-year slide, you will notice where the arrow is pointing, you don't see any color. And I always joke with my school, I say, please put some color on the page. That would indicate that they met growth or exceeded growth, or that they had comps within that 5-point comparability. However, this school did not, but because they did meet growth, it was not a non-renewal situation. They're still climbing. They're still trying to make growth, and therefore they are a 3-year. But as you look at a non-renewal, you will see that growth was not met. Comparability is off by a long shot, and more than likely the school has typically financial and governance issues at this point. So what are the trends that we've seen over the last 4 years of decisions that have been confirmed and charter agreements that have been provided? I want to take a brief look at how these renewal guidelines that we just discussed impact the lengths of renewals. So what you're looking at now is a chart of charter school renewal terms by grade level proficiency. And there are several factors taken into consideration when making a renewal decision. However, academic achievement is one of the most prominent factors. So this chart looks at how schools in a renewal term are affected by its grade level proficiency. This is just a snapshot over the last 4 years for you. Again, you have a data and trends slide, and it tells you how many 10 years you promoted, 7-year, 5-year, and 3-year, as well as non-renewals, as well as assumptions and relinquishments. There's a major difference between a non-renewal and a relinquishment. There are times when boards decide we just can't do it anymore. And when they relinquish, they turn over their charter, that is of no doing of ours. A non-renewal is you're up for renewal, you're not performing, the school is not in good condition, and we're choosing not to extend your contract any further. So there's a major difference there. Just wanted to point that out. There's a lot of preparation that goes into preparing a school for renewal, going out to a renewal visit. Prior to even going out to the school, the website is reviewed to make sure that everything that's required is there. Board minutes for the last 6 months are reviewed to ensure that schools fully understand how to use closed session. Those are questions that we ask in the interview with the board during the site visit. Also, we review the original charter agreement to make sure that we fully understand if they're matching the mission. Because if we only read the self-study and we don't read the original application, then how are we to know if they're staying true to what they promised stakeholders they would do? So there's quite a bit of work that goes into that, not to mention phone calls. This can be a very nerve-wracking process for school leaders. These are jobs on the line. These are, lifestyles for people. And so a lot of times, they're just qualitative conversations of, this is what's going on. Something came up in compliance. How can we deal with it? Can we fix these things? It requires a lot of customer service. But one of the things that Mr. Machado stated when he first came to DPI, and I think we started at the same time, was that customer service is definitely a part of our mission. And we don't shy away from customer service. It takes a lot of time, but we do that in an effort to make sure that our stakeholders and our leaders are supported. This process may be difficult, and it may be a little bit nerve-wracking for people, but we try our very best to make sure that it's not only fair, but it's consistent, and that it's customer service driven. So some additional resources that we have, there is a renewal newsletter. It's called The Scoop with Dr. Coop. I think the link is in your presentation. Feel free to check that out. It's changed a little bit over the pandemic. Some other resources were put in there. But our school leaders turn to that for dates, information, the live link to this presentation or any other. And we also have a page where the digital walkthrough has been provided for each school that's required. Now, in 2020, it was about half and half because some of them are already completed and the other half had to do a video. However, moving forward, we have those pages for schools because, well, everyone's had to do a visual walkthrough. But it's really been a good thing. And last but not least, there's always a takeaway when you look at a deep dive into any process. And we figured out that this is something we might actually want to do for all of our lines of business. But our GLOWs, we found that we have positive working relationships with charter school leaders as it relates to the renewal process. We provide you accurate and thorough presentations and information. We established a systematic approach to the renewal process. We are fair, we are consistent, and we are transparent. And the renewal process, for all stakeholders involved, it's just really a wide open process. There's no guessing, there are no surprises. What are our grows? What things can we do better? So we need to consider the allocation of time as it relates to the actual renewal outcome. Charter agreements, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do I say this to make it make sense? Charter agreements are granted, and then schools go into a 1 year ready to open. So that takes a year off of their operations within the agreement. So they're technically getting 4 years of operations and only 2 before they enter the renewal process. So if there was some way that we could make sure the agreement starts on the year of their operation, it may make it a little bit better for them when entering the process. We would like to build in a mandatory renewal training as well as board training for any school that's renewing. It is crucial that boards understand their role and their purpose. And if we make that training mandatory, then we can ensure that at least on every one of their cycles, they are getting that training.
And last but not least, we would like to create a renewal email address because I'm sure that you know tons of emails come in from stakeholders all around for all different reasons. But if we had a renewal email address, it would ensure that we streamline that and that every renewal school that's asking a question gets a quick response. So they don't have to wait until we wave through the other stakeholder emails. So that is my presentation to you. I hope it was not too fast in the nature of keeping time, but I'm available for questions. If you have any, I will take them at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cooper. Clearly, if you have a question and you need the scoop, ask Dr. Cooper. She's amazing. Questions from colleagues. You need to know that Ms. Kamnitz and I asked some very difficult questions during our pre-committee meeting because we are fully aware that the heartburn that we experience at this table revolves around the question of, are we allowing the charter schools to be wise stewards of the funds that are given in order to impact student performance? And when we see a school before us with a long renewed recommendation and the academic performance is not there, then we start asking hard questions. So we had that discussion at the board table, but I want to give you that opportunity here to ask any questions of Dr. Cooper and her amazing team. Remind me, Mr. Machado and Dr. Cooper, how many people are on the charter school staff? I like to bring this up. Dr. Willoughby trained me well. How many? Six. And for how many total schools?
Over 214 at this point.
Okay. Anyway, questions from colleagues?
Just a quick,
Dr. Oxidine.
This is such a great manual.
Thank
It's
you.
just some time, but it's very detailed, and you know you can flip a page and something captures your attention. You want to keep reading.
Thank
It's a very
you.
good document. Now, the recommendations that you brought forward.
Yes,
seem to be
ma'am.
Very pragmatic. Will it take more policy, legislation, or all of the above?
So what you have before you are examples of things that were recommendations that were approved in 2020 using the new guidelines that were introduced in 2018. So if there were any changes that you wanted to make as far as qualifications, it would start with the guidelines and that would have to go through policy. Did I answer your question?
I'm clarifying. Were you asking about
Well,
the
the
growing things with reference to the email and aligning the timeline?
Under the gross.
Okay, we're under the grows. I'm with you. So restate your question so that I make sure I fully answer
For
it.
instance, that create renewal email address.
Yes, ma'am. It would be great if we could just do that.
We're telling you to do it.
Yeah, okay, great. That would be awesome, and it sounds like we can do that, so that's just one thing on our grows that we can check off. That would be fantastic.
And the other one that caught my attention is number 2, that charter agreement dates may need to be aligned with the year of is that legislation policy?
Yes, ma'am. So the way that they're issued, as they're approved, then the charter agreement is issued. But then they go through ready to open, which is 1 year prior to their doors actually opening. So if we could move that year up, or even if it was an extension, I'm not sure of what that would need to be.
That makes such, that's,
Yeah, because they're, yeah.
Do you want to answer?
I was going to clarify.
Sure. Okay.
The other
Ms.
piece
Kamnitz.
of that issue that came up in committee, so a typical charter loses 1 year out of the 5.
Yes, ma'am.
But if a charter asks for a second year to open, which we have one of those on they actually have 1 year of operation before they then in their year 2 of operation are already back in the renewal process.
Yes.
So it's particularly difficult when schools need 2 years of ready to open.
Absolutely, because just because they ask for an extension, their renewal date remains the same in our system.
Oh my goodness.
And so what you'll have before you in February in the 2022 group is a school that had a 2-year delay, and they have absolutely no data. There's not even a data sheet for them. I'll be presenting a blank that says insert because, again, 2 years and then no data. So, yes, ma'am. Thank you for clarity.
Yes. Vice Chair Duncan.
So several questions, if you bear with me. On the situation you just spoke of, we had a little bit of that come up when we were trying to discuss renewals the last time about it. I think there was some effort that many board members thought a 3-year renewal would have been appropriate for some of the schools, and the comments were made. We would only have 1 year of data for a 3-year renewal at that time. So what will changing the dates do to align so that the 3-year renewal is meaningful and it's not, the argument for 5 years instead of 3 is, well, we won't have enough data. But obviously the board's already expressing concerns as to whether or not the school's succeeding at the level of expectation that we all want.
Understandable, and we share those same concerns. If we could align the date of operation on the charter agreement, that would at least provide one more academic year of data when they come before you. In a pandemic situation though, until there's a decision made that we're gonna actually track data and make it applicable to decisions for schools, I'm not sure that we would have any more say than we do right now.
Yes, that has complicated the process
It
considerably in
has,
so many ways.
Yes, we heavily rely on our academic data, and not having it, you know, the way we've gotten through is through transparent conversations with schools. Hey, this is what you're presenting, this is what we have on record for you, and moving forward, just be prepared to speak to Charter School Advisory Board, our director here, about what processes you have in place and what you're doing to make sure that your schools and your children are still progressing.
But I hear your recommendation, I think I hear board support for this, that making the charter agreement dates need aligning with the year of operations beginning would lend to more data, particularly in the 3-year renewal process. So that's something, and I think Dr. Oxendine's question was, does that need to be a policy decision made by the board, or is that something that can otherwise be done?
It's really both, if I'm understanding it correctly. There's a policy side of it, where a decision would have to be made, a vote would have to be made about where you're gonna mark them starting. But then our office would also have to carry that out by producing the actual charter agreement.
Right, so would you be I take it you're recommending it, so we just need to get at the appropriate time, whatever language makes sense for alignment.
And we will take this conversation and these recommendations to the Charter School Advisory Board so that they know how to move forward with you all as far as process and getting things done.
So while we're still on this chart,
Yes.
to build mandatory renewal training and board training into a professional development module, one of the charts you showed that over 80% of the schools, as best I could get the percentage, have a 10-year renewal.
Yes.
Historically. And so it strikes me that there's likely to be board turnover in a number of these schools in a 10-year period. So I'm actually not sure this recommendation is strong enough. My thought would be you're gonna have different board members who have had no training, who could serve a whole 4 or 8 year term during that 10 years and never have had any mandatory training or any training. So I would ask you to think about or consider how we make sure we hit all board members so that we have an assurance all board members are getting training with respect to their duties as a board member.
Absolutely. And I do know that although we've not made it mandatory for the renewal process, we offer board training to all charter school boards across the state. I know Ms. Machado has done those trainings even on some Saturdays. And I've done trainings as well. So as schools reach out, we ensure that they get what they need, but we want to make sure that if they're entering the renewal process, that they are getting trained. We know that's the time that we can get them and make sure they fully understand what their role is and their purpose. I guess to your comment, it is important that they have it even before renewal.
Right. This is not an exact analogy, but our board every 2 years has to take ethics training. And so some form of greater frequency of appropriate board training and responsibility strikes me. A recommendation from y'all about that would be very helpful, I think, in terms of making sure we have the kind of knowledge that we give these board members a chance to do a good job because they are trained by information.
Absolutely. Put that on the top of the Charter School Advisory Board also.
I have several other questions, but I'll cut short many of them. I know time is of the essence. The slide that has general renewal guidelines, we spent a lot of time on this slide too last time. So let's ask some questions for clarity purposes, because that'll help us before we get to first thing is, it says general renewal guidelines, and there's an asterisk there, and there's no definition for the asterisk. What is the asterisk telling us?
So, which, if I can see this, let me turn it on. Page here.
That,
Great.
I see it at the top. It's just, that was just part of the document. It does not have a significance. It can be removed, if you would see fit, but this is just general renewal guidelines.
all right, typically in a document, if I see an asterisk, it's giving some kind of refinement on that definitionally, and I didn't see that here, so maybe a typo or maybe not, just let's make sure we know. So then, the next question is,
I'm sorry, I have a follow-up question for you about that.
Sure.
Would that be for the comparability explanation? Because at the bottom, there is another asterisk that has the comparability as a definition. Are you referring to that?
no, but I was heading there.
Okay.
I don't know what it means at the top. That was my question.
Understood.
Now, with respect to the comparability, I'm not sure I know what that means without clear definition. I believe when we talked about it last time, there was some schools that actually were not comparable during the time frames. And the comment was made, well, we give some leeway, and I think the 5% number was used at that time, or perhaps greater. So, I mean, my question really is, are these guidelines that we're going by, or are we just sort of, they're fuzzy guidelines that we can adapt them as we decide to, or as we collectively as a body agree to adapt them or not?
Okay. So, the GOP, which is the grade level proficiency percentage, is the 5-point percentage that we discussed. A charter school can be within 5 points up or 5 points below a school system in which they reside. However, when our office presents any, we don't call them recommendations. We place schools within guidelines, within these guidelines. We don't veer to the left, we don't veer to the right. We go strictly by what the information says for each of those state views. The Charter School Advisory Board then takes this information and all other information that's provided outside of this academic data to decide where their recommendations are going to fall. So they tightly use this document to decide. Sometimes there are other factors that weigh in that may make them decide to, okay, well, let's try this or maybe that. And then the school comes in to discuss. Any school that's not slated for seniors originally or out, up front, they are given the opportunity to come before the Charter School Advisory Board and discuss any issues that may be on the table, that were on the table at their time of request.
If I heard that answer correctly, for your recommendations, you use these guidelines tightly.
Right.
But CSAB varies from these guidelines before they make a recommendation, in some instances for reasons that they believe are appropriate, based on the considerations that have come before them. Is that right, factually?
That is correct. It is in policy that says that these are guidelines and they're not mandatory. State CSAB can make a recommendation based on these guidelines, but they are not hard and fast rules.
And is that a board policy you're referring to? Right, so if the board is interested in getting a more precise definition of what the guidelines are, that would have to be something addressed as a policy matter.
In the board training recommendation, that's a great idea. I can say that out of our 204 schools, I would say the vast majority do periodic trainings, but I think if it was in some sort of policy, it would make the other ones adhere to it also.
All right. Again, in the interest of time, let me just stop now, and that we'll have some others, but we'll follow up either next meeting or before.
No, that's okay. Please do that, because airing our questions now will help us when those schools come before us shortly for renewal, so that we're all on the same page about the rubric that was used by the Charter School Advisory Board. And speaking of the Charter School Advisory Board, Ms. Turner has assumed leadership of the Charter School Advisory Board. We're very thankful for your time, and you've spent your You've spent time coming here today. Surely you might have a comment or two. Don't want to put you on the spot, but if you have anything to add as a part of this, not only chairing that committee, but also as an administrator at a school, we'd love to hear anything that you might have to say.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. In reference to renewal, when we go to look at renewals, we do start with this rubric. And for the most part, we stick to the rubric. But there are things that get considered that could modify. In looking at comparability, we do comparability is within 5 points. However, if you have a school that is predominantly a particular subgroup or several subgroups, and you don't have other subgroups, then we want to go look at how do you compare by the subgroups, because comparing you to the whole district isn't really valid. So so you could see that somebody would get a 7 instead of a 5, where they don't compare to the entire district, but if you look at their subgroups, they're comparable to their subgroups. So that is something else that we look at. We take noncompliance really seriously. And so if we see multiple noncompliances, we could decide that we're not going to give as much time, even though academically it might look like it would be okay. But if you are, we run small businesses. If you can't stay financially compliant, if you're not compliant in all the other areas, that's a big deal. And so we look at that as well. So it's not hard and fast just this, but we do take some other things into consideration. The other thing I would say is that the 2-year process for renewal is really, it's stressful as a leader. I will go back into renewal next year, and this will be my, I think, 4th. But because the self-study, that's no joke. That is you might as well rewrite your application. Like it's a complete study of who you are now and any changes that you've made over for us, what would have been the last 10 years. And in addition to that, there's a lot that goes into it. When they come to visit, they interview the parents, they interview students, they interview staff, they interview leadership. Besides doing the walkthrough of the visit. And when Dr. Cooper comes to present to us at the CSAP, we take that her report about the site visit really seriously because, as the leader, I'm going to tell you it's all good. In my self-study, I'm not right. So my self-study is going to say it's all good. But if she comes to my building and she sees things that don't match what I said were happening, I need to know that. And so those site visits really are important.
Thank you so much for that perspective and input. Okay, not seeing any other board members with pressing questions, we're going to come to a close. Thank you. I encourage board members for you to review this document, reach out either to Ms. Kamnitz or myself or directly to staff for further questions. I did hear a couple of takeaways. I heard saw a nod of consent from fix the email. I heard interest from board members about what it might look like to tweak that timeline, and knowing what I know about our approval and when we approve the charter is granted, that there's interest in what it might look like if we shift the beginning of the charter process to when the school actually begins operation, what that looks like, is it feasible, have we lost our minds, give us the good, bad, and the ugly, and then just moving forward, the board member training and making sure that new board members coming on for charter schools across the state are highly encouraged, I won't say required, but highly encouraged to have some sort of training to remain compliant, and that should be maybe part of that, those quarterly reports or the needs assessment that board members have had training. Yes? Okay, good. Thank you. I know we're way over time. We got a couple more items. Thank you so much to your entire team. Quickly, the action item that we have for this month is the NC Access Program Replication Subgrant and Timeline Recommendations. Jay Whalen, thank you for being patient this morning in doing your part of the presentation. He has just a couple of things to add based on the information that we received last month. Jay, it's your time to shine.
Okay, I will be brief. So we are bringing recommendations for subgrants for the NC Access Program. You'll remember from October and November, our discussions around the timeline. We also remind the board that we have a fall replication timeline for schools that are applying for replication. Replication is a priority not only for the NC Access Program, but also for the federal CSP program. And we had 2 applicants that applied during our fall timeline, and we are bringing both of those with recommendations for approval. So you have the full recommendation reports posted for you on e-board, but very briefly, Central Carolina Academy, we are recommending for an award of $1.15 million. They scored 88 points on the state board through scoring rubric, so they met the threshold for 80. They're projecting 664 students with a 55% educationally disadvantaged student population. They're obviously replicating a high-quality instructional model, and they have a very strong dual enrollment and credentialing partnership with the North Carolina Community College System, and they are replicating high school grades, which is also a priority of the NC Access Program and the federal CSP program. As a reminder, this school has already been approved by this board for replication. And the second school is West Triangle High School. They're being recommended for approval of an award of $1.25 million. They scored 97 points on the state board approved rubric and are projecting 600 students with 30% educational disadvantage students. And again, similar to the previous application, are replicating the high-quality instructional model and serving high school grades. So both schools are meeting our priorities of replication and serving grades 9 through 12. So because of that, with the approval of those recommendations, we would then have awarded 62 subgrants. So we have surpassed our goal of awarding 60 subgrants. And based on the conversations that we had in October and November, we will also be recommending an update to the timeline to not hold an additional application cycle in the spring. So we have roughly $150,000 remaining that's been allocated to subgrants, and we would then look to use that to support existing eligible subgrantees, and we would bring recommendations for that back to this board as well, but not enough funding to have an entire application cycle. But we have already met our goal of 60. So happy to answer any questions.
Fabulous update. Questions? Okay, thank you for your good work.
Thank you so much.
So that item will be before us for approval. Moving to our discussion agenda, we have the recommendation for acceleration for our charter schools for the 2021 cycle. Dave Machado.
Thank you again, Ms. White. We've had 4 accelerated applications this cycle, and we're recommending, our supervisory board is recommending that 3 of them be approved to open. An accelerated application is an application that will open the following year. They will not go through their planning year cycle. It is required that if you are an application in the accelerated timeline that you attend the ready to open planning year trainings that are going on before you are approved. These schools have been attending those trainings. Another requirement for an accelerated application is you must have a building that is very close to ready to open up. I have personally visited all 4 of these sites, and I can confirm that these buildings will be ready to open next fall. The first one we'll discuss is Movement School Southwest. It's in Mecklenburg County. They currently have 2 sister schools in Mecklenburg County, Movement Freedom and Movement Eastland. Their mission is to serve a very large EDS population. And Movement, if you remember years ago, was a replication of a Sugar charter. Again, their building is ready. When they open up next year, they'll be K1 with 250 students. And when they are fully built out, there'll be a K5 school with 645 students. They will provide lunch and participate in the National Lunch Program. They will provide transportation. And again, their facility is ready. Would you like me to go through all of them?
Yes, please.
The second accelerated recommendation for you is Revitalize Charter School. It's going to be here in Wake County in the 27610 or the 27616 zip code, which is that southeast area of Raleigh. Their first year, they will be K2 with 216 students, and when they are completely built out, they'll be a K8 school with 645 students. They will also provide lunch, free reduced lunch, gonna open up first year K-7, 192 students, and when they're at full capacity, they will be K-8 with 216 students. They will offer free and reduced lunch, will offer transportation. They are implementing a weighted lottery, and they do have a building that is ready. There is no other charter school in Caldwell County. Matter of fact, 4 of the 6 counties that surround Caldwell County do not have a charter school, and they currently, right now, have over 300 intent to enroll forms for the 200 or 190 some students that space they have. And they anticipate having an EDS population of about 60% of Caldwell County area is high EDS population. And the fourth accelerated application was from the Lane Reddit Charter, and the Charter School Board is not recommending that they be open for next year. That's the 3 that we have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Machado. Just as a reminder, by policy, schools that apply for an accelerated application who are not approved are not moved forward into the traditional application process. So their application for this year is done, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Question about the 3 schools, Movement School Southwest, Revitalize, and Oak Hill. This is a discussion item, so it won't be back before us until next month for action. Questions right now about those applications and that recommendation? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Machado. For that, do you want to stay at the podium for us and talk us through EICS 3, which is Phoenix Academy's request to partner with the new EMO?
Phoenix Academy is located in Guilford County. They opened up in 2000. They are currently K-10. They will eventually be K-12. The school has partnered with the EMO called 7 Degrees of Change, which the founders of Phoenix Academy also founded this EMO, and the founders are retiring. So we're requesting that they partner with National Heritage Academies. The board did a very thorough search to see what other EMOs they could partner with, and decided to partner with NHA because their missions are somewhat aligned. So that they're recommending that. And NHA will assume the exact contract that the board of Phoenix Academy has with 7 Degrees of Change.
Questions about this school's request to work with a new EMO? Okay, yes, Mr. Duncan.
Whenever we have a new EMO request, and I'm pretty satisfied in the answers, but I think we should ask, are there any pending issues or complaints related to the EMO provider who would come into play?
There are no non-compliant or complaints with National Heritage Association.
Yeah, I think I knew the answer, but I do think we should ask that question every time.
Ms. Turner, you guys also, through the CSAB, also look at the EMO, that partnership to see if it's a qualified. Thank you. Okay, and then that will leave us with the last discussion item, because we already did EICS 5. Aspire Trade High School is making a request for a 2nd-year delay. And what's going on there?
Okay. They are currently in their 1-year delay. They're located in Huntersville in Mecklenburg County. This school is going to be a vocational high school, 9 through 12 grades, with about 400 students. All classes and equipment will be on the campus of Aspire High School. This is a very innovative application. I know CSAB is very excited when they brought it before them. The Aspire owns 25 acres of land that they have in Mecklenburg County and Huntersville. There is a private school that they also run that is on that same campus. Due to COVID, high cost of construction costs, in their financial prudence to make sure they had enough money in the bank to open, that they are seeking a 2nd-year delay. They have raised $1 million with $6 million in pledges from a lot of local industry. So this school has done an excellent job getting the resources and the funding to start this school. They did come before Humanities that made this recommendation, and they made a nice push to make sure that they are spending as much time recruiting students as they are recruiting funds.
Questions?
So in this, in sort of to clear up the conversation about this length of the charter, if you were to grant this second-year delay, they would have 3 years left of their charter.
Thank you. Okay, not hearing any questions for the items that are on our discussion agenda. I do have 4 items for consent this month. The first is the presentation of the 2021 North Carolina Virtual Annual Report, which we heard last month from that amazing team. EICS 7 is the North Carolina Virtual Public School Advisory Council recommendations, and of special note, for the first time ever, we have students who have been recommended to serve on that committee, so take a look at those. So that's huge kudos. Student voices are so important to the work that we do. EICS 8 is Carolina Charter Schools' request to implement a weighted lottery, and EICS 9 is the Learning Center's request to also implement a weighted lottery. Without any further questions or comments, Mr. Chair, thank you for the enormous amount of time you afforded me today. We're done.
Thank you, Ms. White. We'll now break for lunch and return at 12:50.